This is CNN.
A man accused of killing 10 women in North Carolina goes to court. Find out about his earlier arrest before some of the murders.
Illegal aliens are costing Florida millions, and the governor wants the feds to pay up.
President Clinton and other leaders look for ways to put the world to work. An international summit on jobs begins today.
We affirm that communication with the so-called dead is a fact scientifically proven by the phenomena of spiritualism.
We'll take you to a small town that's big on mediums and other spiritual guides. Larry Woods peers into the future in his travels across America.
She's an expert on making home a cozy, comfortable place. Martha Stewart joins us with tips for spring and Easter, and she'll take your phone calls.
Taking stock tips from a teenager might not sound like good advice, unless he's the financial whiz kid we'll introduce you to this morning.
You probably know her as Drusilla on The Young and the Restless. Actress Victoria Rowell joins us, and she'll take your phone calls.
This is CNN Morning News. 2 hours of news, interviews, and viewer phone calls with Leon Harris and Donna Kelly.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us this Monday. Police in Charlotte, North Carolina believe that they have solved a string of murders that have terrorized that area for nearly 2 years.
The man they accuse of killing 10 women is due in court this morning. Henry Lewis Wallace was arrested on Saturday and charged with 10 counts of murder. In early February, police arrested Wallace on a theft charge and released him the same day. They say 4 of the murders occurred between that time and Wallace's arrest on Saturday, hours after the most recent victim was discovered. Most of the victims lived in the neighborhood where Wallace once had an apartment, and the killings created an atmosphere of terror.
Very frightening, very frightening. I'm just devastated. You know, when it hits you in your backyard like this, it's just unreal.
It could have been me. It could have been anybody. You know, just like they said, it could have been anybody. I mean, that's a shame. It could have been anybody.
Police describe Wallace as a drifter who killed and robbed to support his crack cocaine habit.
The females in our community can feel a little safer when they go to bed tonight, because we're 100% convinced that this person is responsible for these 10 murders, or these 9 murders and 1 missing person, which we're convinced has been murdered also.
Police say they've learned that Wallace may also be responsible for a murder in South Carolina.
Well, Governor Lawton Chiles is expected to announce this hour that Florida is filing suit to get the federal government to pay for illegal immigrants. About 50,000 undocumented aliens, like these Cubans picked up at sea by the Coast Guard, arrive in Florida each year. A report compiled by the state says that Florida taxpayers spent $884 million last year on illegal immigrants for services like education and health care. Governor Chiles blames the Immigration and Naturalization Service, saying it enforces immigration laws selectively, making Florida a haven for illegals. But an INS spokesman questions the numbers in the state report, saying there has been no real counting.
About 3.5 minutes after the hour, jobs and training and trade. President Clinton is having coffee in Detroit at this hour with labor and economic ministers of the world's most powerful industrial nations. They are talking jobs. Later this morning, Mr. Clinton delivers the keynote speech of a 2-day jobs conference of the Group of 7 industrial countries. Commerce Secretary Ron Brown told CNN this morning the administration is pleased with the U.S. economic recovery. Secretary Brown suggested how more jobs can be created.
The problem during the Bush years, we weren't creating jobs at all. As I just indicated, about a total of about a million, or rather 2 million over the whole 4-year period. That is inadequate job creation. Now that we've moved into economic recovery, we think we can do a lot better on that. And yes, what we're changing is we're focusing on technology. We're focusing on innovation. One of the things that is on the floor of the Senate this week is S4, the Competitiveness Act of 1994, which really creates a real relationship of trust and respect between the public and private sector.
After Mr. Clinton's speech, there will be working sessions between G7 cabinet-level officials. Recommendations from the conference will go to G7 leaders for discussion at their Naples summit in July.
Well, there's a tense calm today at London's Heathrow Airport because authorities fear additional mortars may be hidden around the airport's perimeter. Yesterday, for the 3rd time in the past week, mortars rained down on Heathrow. None of the shells have actually exploded. Police reports no injuries or property damage. But authorities suspect the Irish Republican Army, which claimed responsibility in an earlier attack. Today, the IRA is calling for fresh talks with Britain to end the long conflict with Northern Ireland. The British government says it will not talk with the IRA or its political wing, Sinn Féin, until it renounces violence totally.
A U.S. diplomat is meeting with PLO leader Yasser Arafat in Tunisia today, trying to get Middle East peace talks restarted. The talks ended after the massacre at a West Bank mosque last month. Israeli representatives are also in Tunis, but it's not clear yet if Arafat will meet with them today. The Israeli army today turned back hundreds of Israeli Arabs en route to Hebron to pray for the victims of the February 25th attack. The caravan of 20 buses was stopped at a roadblock in the occupied West Bank. And the Vatican announced today that Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin will meet with Pope John Paul II at the Vatican on Thursday. It will be the Pope's first meeting with an Israeli official since diplomatic ties were established last December. The meeting was requested by Mr. Rabin. A news report says the two will discuss the Middle East peace process and the Pope's planned visit to Lebanon at the end of May.
6 minutes after the hour now. Much more to come on the morning news. Just ahead, Secretary of State Warren Christopher travels to Russia.
Next half hour, we'll get you in the Easter spirit. Martha Stewart will be here with decorating tips to make the holiday festive.
And in the 10 o'clock half hour, a look at the fierce competition for the Oscars, a special series this week.
And we'll be joined by Drusilla from The Young and the Restless later on. Actress Victoria Rowell will take your calls in the 10:30 half hour.
In today's world, managing air travel costs is more important than ever, which is why over 100,000 companies, including half of the Fortune 500, use the same payment system. One with customized billing and reports to help keep corporate travel expenses under control, and the only one that costs nothing to use.
The Air Travel Card. Sounds smart. Let's go with it.
Call 800-222-4688. The Air Travel Card, the smartest route.
All over America, a new idea is taking root. It doesn't make sense to pay the price of other luxury hotels when you can get all the same great things at a DoubleTree and still be everywhere you want to be. DoubleTree Hotels. It's a smart call.
You've never had cereal like this before. It has the enticing aroma and the spice of ground cinnamon, the delicious, savory crunch of rolled oats baked to perfection, the sweetness of brown sugar, a touch of vanilla, and a sprinkling of nutmeg. There's never been cereal like this before. The new Kellogg's Cracklin' Oat Bran, now baked with an even more irresistible recipe. Kellogg's Cracklin' Oat Bran. It's the bran you'll eat for taste alone.
Tonight, the war in Bosnia through the eyes of a child. The little girl who brought Capitol Hill to a standstill with her dramatic war diary. On Larry King Live tonight, 9 Eastern on CNN.
Kimberly Twigg, Kimberly Mays. She was switched at birth, but adopted children often face Kimberly's choice. Whom do I want as a parent? Today on Sonia Live, 1 p.m. Eastern, only on CNN.
A longtime congressional powerhouse still has a lot of friends and a lot of fight left, but he's facing a tough battle to keep his House seat. A report on that is coming up, but first, Leon has some other stories that we're following this hour.
That's right. A caller who says that he represents a militant black group is claiming responsibility for killing 3 whites at a church in South Africa. Police say the black gunman burst into a service in a black township near East London, South Africa, and gunned down the only 3 white people in the church. Meanwhile, the streets are quiet in Bophuthatswana as South African troops patrol the black homeland. Banks, shops, and government offices are open for the first time since last week's violence took at least 42 lives. South African government has taken over Bophuthatswana, putting an ambassador in charge of an interim administration. Secretary of State Warren Christopher says that despite their disagreements, Russia and the United States remain committed to global cooperation. Christopher is in Vladivostok, Russia, where he met this morning with Andrei Kozyrev, the Russian foreign minister. Kozyrev said the two focused on Bosnia and the Middle East in their 2-hour meeting. Christopher flew to Vladivostok from Beijing, where he spent 2 days meeting with Chinese leaders. His final meeting was with China's foreign minister, and despite a bitter dispute over human rights, Christopher said, quote, I find the differences between China and the United States are narrowing somewhat.
Hillary Rodham Clinton goes on the road to talk health care reform. She speaks today at the Colorado Health Care Summit in Denver. Back in Washington, Republicans want her to speak out on another matter, Whitewater. They are keeping up the drumbeat for congressional hearings. Democrats argue any hearings must wait until independent counsel Robert Fisk completes his Whitewater-related probe.
The fact is that there is some partisanship here, and there is some payback for what was done to us for 12 years. Also the fact is that there is an obligation of the opposition to bring forward evidence and question the ruling party, and that's the traditional role.
What's the rush about when you got a man who is a Republican, a man of integrity and experience, with full independent authority, conduct investigation? Let him get to the facts.
This past week, President...
And might I say, then let the chips fall where they may. If there's been wrongdoing, there should be punishment for that wrongdoing. If there hasn't been, he should say so openly.
Mrs. Clinton broke her silence on Whitewater in 2 magazine interviews. She said mistakes were made in the Whitewater land deal and later in handling questions about it.
In Illinois, a heated race for Congress has essentially come down to 2 candidates. And the powerful but embattled House Ways and Means Chairman, Dan Rostenkowski, faces what appears to be the race of his political career. Here's CNN's Bruce Morton with more from Chicago.
State Senator John Cullerton campaigning these days with wife and kids. He's the new guy.
It's come down to whether or not we should have politics as usual or whether or not we should have a change. I think we ought to have a change. And I think the people in this district know that too.
Dan Rostenkowski, powerful chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, 36 years in the Congress. He's the old guy.
He's out of the organization, or machine, as you call it, if you don't like it. And I think there's a feeling that he's out of touch and that he's part of the old days, and we need the new days. And I think he's in trouble.
Maybe in trouble in Chicago, but still a king of clout in Washington. Endorsements have been falling like the gentle rain from heaven. House Majority Leader Richard Gephardt Friday. Sunday, former vice presidential candidate Geraldine Ferraro.
This is not for Danny Rostenkowski. This election is for you. This election is for the city of Chicago. This election is for the state of Illinois. This election is for the people of this country.
Rostenkowski, battling flu as well as Cullerton, said a short thank you.
Jerry, I'm really grateful to you for coming in to help me out.
The race seems to be down to the 2 of them. Ex-Alderman Dick Simpson has run a poor 3rd in recent polls, which also show a lot of undecideds.
And I told my wife, my mother-in-law, my kids, they vote for you.
We know where he stands. Rostenkowski's people say the undecideds are coming their way. Others doubt that. Turnout will matter a lot.
This is going to be a very close election, could be within a few hundred votes.
Could be. Or there could be a late swing to one or the other. Anyway, it's almost over.
Wednesday, we won't be celebrities anymore.
He doesn't mean he'll lose, just that somebody will, and the reporters will be chasing something else. Bruce Morton, CNN, Chicago.
Well, tomorrow we'll have some more information on Mr. Rostenkowski and his trials and tribulations, as CNN's Bruce Morton will actually join us, and we'll talk some more about this series.
Still ahead on CNN Morning News, a check of the nation's weather picture.
Also coming up, American troops are beginning their pullout from Somalia.
One special face to see is Lee Island Coast, because it's the face of Florida's Florida. Everything Florida is, everything Florida was. And the best way to see Florida's Florida and get your dollar worth is to rent from Dollar Rent-A-Car, your Florida vacation specialist. For free Lee Island Coast and State of Florida Vacationers guides, call 1-800-533-4753, extension 1.
In today's world, managing air travel costs is more important than ever, which is why over 100,000 companies, including half of the Fortune 500, use the same payment system. One with customized billing and reports to help keep corporate travel expenses under control, and the only one that costs nothing to use.
The air travel card. Sounds smart. Let's go with it.
Call 800-222-4688. The air travel card, the smartest route.
Please be seated. The performance is about to begin. 32-valve, 280 horsepower Lincoln Mark 8. It's like Beethoven with an attitude. Drive everything else first.
What is CNN Sports Tonight?
Highlights, stats, and scores. The play of the day.
To catch what happened in sports today,
watch CNN Sports Tonight, 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific on CNN.
U.S. Joint Chiefs Chairman General John Shalikashvili is praising the soldiers who have been stationed in Somalia for the last year and a half. CNN military affairs correspondent Jamie McIntyre reports from Somalia as that controversial mission draws to a close.
We gotta get out of this place if it's the last thing we ever do.
U.S. troops enjoyed their last night of karaoke at Club Moog, a makeshift nightclub which, like everything from M1 tanks to Cobra helicopters, is being wrapped and packed for the trip home. At the U.S. compound, a sign of the times, evidence American troops are ready to leave. Morale is high because most can count their final days in Somalia on the fingers of one hand. Most, but not all.
Some 2,000 Marines will remain on ships off the coast of Mogadishu in order to protect an estimated 1,000 American citizens who will stay in Somalia.
That mission falls to the Marines aboard 4 ships. On a visit to the flagship, Peleliu, Joint Chiefs Chairman General John Shalikashvili told the sailors and Marines they must stay to back up their fellow Americans.
Because they're going to be there, and we won't know for a little while what the security situation will be like. We're going to ask you to stick around for a while. I can't tell you how long.
Also staying behind, a 50 Marine FAST company. FAST for Fleet Anti-Terrorism Security Team, to guard the U.S. interest section, where diplomats hope they're seeing a change in attitude on the part of Mohammed Farah Aidid and other clan leaders.
Virtually every Somali leader we talk to assures us, insists, that he is for a peaceful settlement. There is tremendous pressure from the population as a whole, and particularly from women's groups. They're tired of fighting. They're tired of all the death and destruction.
Only helicopters patrol Mogadishu's dangerous streets now. From the neighborhoods bordering the UN compound come random bullets from drive-by shootings and shells from occasional mortars. And while the U.S. and UN failed to disarm warring Somali factions or put the country on a sure road to democracy, the top U.S. military officer is making no apologies for pulling out.
I leave here with a guarded optimism about the work that is still ahead, with a full realization that no matter how long we would have stayed, ultimately the Somali people must do that themselves.
Jamie McIntyre, CNN, Mogadishu, Somalia.
The first hybrid Taurus rocket has put 2 satellites into orbit. The Taurus blasted off yesterday from California's Vandenberg Air Force Base. One of its satellites has 10 Pentagon experiments aboard designed to make space systems that require less ground control. Purpose of the other satellite? Well, we don't know. That one is classified. Officials hope that Taurus will provide a reliable way to reach space on short notice. The mission cost more than $100 million.
Coming up to 19 minutes after the hour on a Monday morning. Do you remember last weekend, 1 year ago, huge snowstorm?
Oh, that's right. It was about a year ago, wasn't it?
Doesn't matter
this
year. Yeah, it doesn't matter this year because we've had so many snowstorms. Dave Hennon is here, and he can tell you what's going on.
That's right. Nothing of that size, though. That was, of course, the storm of the century. And just to give you an example of what it's going to be like today compared to last year. In Atlanta, we had temperatures only in the 30s. There was over a foot of snow on the ground in some cases. Today, the high temperature up near 70 degrees and lots of sunshine. Pretty quiet across much of the U.S. A little bit of rain shower activity, some snow through the upper Midwest in the colder air, and a little bit of activity off the Carolina coast. And some of that has been some thunderstorm activity off of Cape Hatteras. And we do expect a few showers still to linger through coastal areas of the northeast throughout the morning, but by later on this afternoon, things will be improving across that area. Some sunshine in the forecast. Heaviest rainfall will be falling through northern sections of Mexico, South Texas, where the rainfall could be heavy, an inch or two of rain possible in those areas. Here's the high temperature map, and look at the 70s all the way into the plains today, into Nebraska, some very nice weather. Temperatures in the 50s, Chicago today all the way into Minneapolis, and warm in Southern California once again. They set records in Los Angeles yesterday up to 89 degrees. Weather maps later on today. A series of fronts will be moving through the Midwest and up through the upper Great Lakes, and these will be pushing in some cooler air. In fact, by late in the day on Tuesday, a couple of fronts through the Midwest, not producing a lot of precipitation, but they will be keeping things chilly across the Midwest into the Northeast. Let's take a look now at some forecasts for some cities across North America. More on the records in the West. We'll talk about the heat and also talk about a storm in the Southwest next hour. Donna?
Thank you, Dave. Figure skater Tanya Harding may not be getting big buck endorsements, but she could have a rich future in pro wrestling. The chairman of the All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling Association says that he will pay Harding $2 million to get into the ring. The Japanese businessman says Harding is about as tough as they come, and he says that she will last longer in wrestling than figure skating. He hopes to meet Harding while she is in Japan for the World Figure Skating Championships next week.
I mean, some may laugh, but I could see that. Stocking mask and
Never know.
stick in one hand and all that.
I've seen a
Just like
lot
they
of
do over here.
cartoons, though.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, works for me. Well, still to come on the morning news, we'll take you to a small town in Florida where nearly everyone gets into the spirit.
It's a place where psychic readings are the claim to fame.
Search. Search. What is it, boy? Hey, I think we got something over here. Good dog.
Some people are naturally faster than others. In fact, everything they do is fast. Fast, 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 fast. Now, not everyone appreciates that. But if you're looking to get a new GM car or truck financed, fast is exactly what you want.
Mac will take care of your financing.
And the folks who arrange GMAC financing and leasing are faster than just about anyone else. GMAC, the expressway home.
You forgot your sunglasses.
Liz, if it occurs to you, I need my airline tickets, huh?
Oh, look, we're going to need you to pitch in on that budget analysis.
You know, I'd love to, but you know, I'm on the road at the Hyatt.
Okay.
Mr. Dennis, I can call the Hyatt and they can get you a computer. And an in-room fax machine so you can do all the work you need to do right there.
Gee, thanks, Liz.
With Hyatt's new business plan, you can do a lot more business away from business.
And you can get right to work in your room, sir.
Have you met my secretary?
We've thought of everything at the Hyatts of the Southeast.
Tonight, the war in Bosnia through the eyes of a child. The little girl who brought Capitol Hill to a standstill with her dramatic war diary. On Larry King Live tonight, 9 Eastern on CNN.
You bet. About 23 and a half minutes after the hour, there is a small town in Florida where mediums and other spiritual guides are big business.
That's right. CNN's Larry Woods takes us there as he travels across America this morning.
There's an old saying that if you want to do something out of the ordinary, or even on the spur of the moment, and the spirit moves you, then do it. Well, let us take you to a small town in northeast Florida where spiritualism not only exists, it's the town's major industry and claim to fame. They call it Cassadaga. It's a quiet, historic community, exactly 100 years old, where some 50 licensed mediums have congregated to dispense their intuitive powers. powers that attempt to put people in touch with the past, present, and the future. The curious and the convinced find their way to Cassadaga year-round, and many pause for religious services on Sunday.
Hello.
On a recent visit, Jamie Tolliver Ruiz underscored some major beliefs of spiritualism.
We affirm that communication with the so-called dead is a fact scientifically proven by the phenomena of spiritualism. We affirm that all our principles are made possible through meditation and prayer.
Say your name out loud.
To the stranger who may desire something more, spiritual counselors, not fortune tellers, thank you, apply their metaphysical attributes at the services for all to see and later bargain for.
What I'm feeling with you is taller. You're growing taller in this next year because you're feeling more confident, more sure of yourself. You're going to be given some responsibilities around the 2nd of April. As I go through here, I'm getting the name Richard. What does the name Richard mean to you?
He used to be my fiancé.
Where is he? In spirit? He's very much around you today. He wants you to go ahead with a decision that you've been thinking about making that you keep talking yourself out of.
I feel disagreement very, very strong right here. I just feel like love's keeping you together, but I don't feel like it's strong enough right now to bring the two of you to the middle of the road.
Later, Bill Kaplan and Robin Ward confirmed that there was some dissension in their lives they're trying to resolve.
I'm going through a divorce. I will be getting a divorce. And he is too. So, I don't think we really have a disagreement. I think that we have some things that we have to work through before we can be as one.
Bill, how did you get involved in this? Was it because of Robin, or is it something you sought out on your own?
Early last year, I came to Cassadaga, took a reading for half an hour, and everything that I was told last January, February has essentially come to pass almost to the month.
With curiosity threatening to devour my psyche and thrust into a briar patch filled with psychics, I too sat for a reading with a woman called Birdie.
I only present things to you.
Through what she termed as spiritual vibrations I was emanating, Birdie peered into a few corners of my life.
The initial D?
Yes.
Who is this?
The initial D is the initial of my wife and the name of my wife, D.
What does the name Michael mean to you?
My son.
He probably doesn't discuss many personal things with you, but there are many personal changes coming for him in '95.
How do you know when someone is misleading you and not telling you the truth?
I don't. I don't really care what you tell me. I can only tell you what I'm feeling, and that's what I work with, and I go and trust with my first impressions.
Cassadaga and the grounds, says medium Marilyn Autry Smith, haven't changed much since 1894 when George Colby persuaded fellow New Yorkers to settle here and practice their clairvoyant and religious beliefs. A century-long endeavor, she adds, has been to help people find themselves.
Many are lost in spirit. They don't know why they're here, they don't know what they're doing, they don't know where they're going. And so the purpose is people helping people.
We use the vibration off these bowls for healing, meditation, alleviating stress.
The props and paraphernalia of this psychic way station, even the town itself and all it represents, are not for everyone. But it is for some. After all, the mind often willingly believes what it wishes. Larry Woods, Across America, in Cassadaga, Florida.
You know, they say that some folks really do have a gift, but I don't know how you decide who is making up things and who has a gift.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I know little enough to even question that. If they say, yeah, sure, fine. I agree.
I know we're going to do a tease to a break. In sports, the Shack swats Sir Charles, but guess who gets off the deck and has the last laugh?
Those folks in Cassadaga know already, but just ahead, Mark McKay will be here and he'll tell you. Stay with us.
Morning News continues, followed by Living in the 90s. After this local commercial break, here on CNN.
The secret to living well on a budget is knowing when to buy. I buy toys the week after Christmas, snow skis in the spring, and my furniture when it comes back to Court Furniture Rental. They sell previously leased brand name furniture at fantastic prices. And with savings like that, here's another little secret. You gotta move fast.
Visit Court's clearance centers and find reasonable prices on previously leased office and residential furniture. Stop in and see our buys.
Celtics a 3-on-1 on a big lead.
Being around professional athletes, I know how hard it is to work to stay in shape and how difficult it is to find that suit that really fits. That's why Eastern Clothing has that special design athletic cut suit.
The athletic cut suit at Eastern Clothing with wider shoulders and a narrow waist. It's custom made for those who work out.
So if you work hard to look good, you want a suit that fits.
This is CNN.
Easter eggs are a part of life in many households, of course, this time of year. Coming up shortly, lifestyle consultant Martha Stewart will be showing us how to decorate Easter eggs and baskets, and she'll be taking your questions. That's just ahead after a look at our top stories and a financial update.
Florida's governor says that his state is paying a fortune to care for illegal immigrants. Governor Lawton Chiles puts that tab at $884 million a year, and more immigrants keep arriving. A group of Cubans trying to reach the U.S. was picked up off Florida's coast Thursday, as you see there. Governor Chiles plans to sue the federal government to recover the money that Florida spends on schools, medical care, and other services for illegal aliens. Police have arrested a suspect in the killings of 10 women in Charlotte, North Carolina. Authorities say that Henry Louis Wallace told officers where to find the 10th victim. Deputy Police Chief says that Wallace is a crack cocaine addict who had worked with some of the victims in restaurants. Wallace has a court hearing today. In London today, police are searching for additional mortars which may be planted near airports. There have been 3 mortar attacks on Heathrow in less than a week. So far, no one has been injured. The Irish Republican Army says it is responsible and warns that there will be casualties unless there are new talks over a peace plan for Northern Ireland.
32 minutes after the hour, Stuart Varney is standing by, and he has a business news update for us. Stuart?
Thank you, Donna. Leon, President Clinton calls it a crisis. More than 30 million people out of work in the major industrialized nations, even though most of those economies are now improving. Well, the president and leaders from the group of 7 countries are meeting today in Detroit to talk about jobs, training and trade. The 2-day summit is the first of its kind. One factor that could slow economic growth worldwide is higher interest rates. And in the U.S., long-term rates have jumped a full percentage point just since last October. Well, today those rates are holding fairly steady. The yield on the 30-year Treasury bond at 6.90%. That bond is down 1/32 in price. As for the dollar, edging higher in New York trading. It is up a half yen, reaching the 105.5 level. Traders optimistic about Japan's decision to give Motorola a bigger presence in Japan's cellular phone market. Here's a stock to watch today, Walt Disney. It has tentatively agreed to a rescue plan with creditor banks for the Euro Disney theme park outside Paris. It is half owned by the U.S. entertainment giant. And Disney clearing another hurdle. State lawmakers in Virginia have approved a $160 million plan to build a visitors center and improve highways. Disney had said it would cancel its plan to build a history theme park in that state if those subsidies were not granted. All right, trading on Wall Street just getting underway. Now on Friday, the blue chip stocks jumped to 32 points on the Dow Industrials, boosted by higher bond prices. Just a few minutes into the trading session today, and we have the Dow Industrials on the upside by 3.5 points, reaching 38.66. That's the latest in business news. I'm Stuart Varney in New York.
Thanks, Stuart. Interior Secretary Bruce Babbitt is in a verbal fight with Florida sugar growers over a proposal to clean up the Everglades. Babbitt was in Florida yesterday. He says growers risk losing their valuable federal subsidies if they do not sign up. The proposal calls for reflooding of some farmland and restoring the water flow from Lake Okeechobee to Florida Bay. But one sugar company official calls Secretary Babbitt's remarks heavy-handed and accuses the Interior Secretary of being a, quote, scorched earth environmentalist.
Still an update now on the status of marine mammals.
That's and other news in today's Environmental Report.
It's a tug of war waged in the depths of the deep blue sea. Man sets out in search of food, threatening the survival of the world's marine mammals. The picture is grim. In our lifetime, the humpback whale has nearly vanished. In the past 50 years, 90% of them have died. And in the Bering Sea, there are far fewer stellar sea lions than there were before. In less than 2 decades, their numbers have dropped by 70%. The pressures on marine mammals are many. Despite new laws, some dolphins still drown in tuna boat nets. Others wash up dead of pollution. And then there is food. Whale and dolphin, sea lion and seal. They share with us fisheries that are shrinking. For one whale, making the endangered species list was the turning point. Today, off the coast of California, the gray whale is returning in record numbers.
Still to come on CNN Morning News, advice on getting your home environment ready for Easter.
Some home decorating tips from expert Martha Stewart. She'll be here to show you how to make your home ready for Easter with some unique Easter baskets.
When I was a teenager, Dad felt so good about Buick quality and safety, he let me drive.
Today, Buicks have better quality than ever. Every Buick has anti-lock brakes. Every Buick has driver or dual airbags. And every Buick has air conditioning refrigerant that won't harm the ozone layer. Everyone can feel good about that.
You want to drive?
Sure. Let's go. I'm riding shotgun.
Every day in 34 countries and over 300 cities, Delta Airlines takes off to the world of facts and figures, budgets, and bottom lines. And when the job is done, we bring you back to the world of mommies and daddies, boyfriends, girlfriends, and best friends. Delta Airlines.
Liz, if it occurs to you, I need my airline tickets, huh?
Oh, look, we're going to need you to pitch in on that budget analysis.
You know, I'd love to, but you know, I'm on the road at the Hyatt.
Okay.
Mr. Dennis, I can call the Hyatt and they can get you a computer. And an in-room fax machine so you can do all the work you need to do right there.
Gee, thanks, Liz.
With Hyatt's new business plan, you can do a lot more business away from business.
And you can get right to work in your room, sir.
Have you met my secretary?
We've thought of everything at the Hyatts of Chicago.
A wide selection, all the best brands. And now at Pearl Vision, 50% off every frame. Cheryl Teague, Sebastiano, Guess, Gant, and more. 50% off every frame, every brand. Now at Pearl Vision.
There are those among us with very simple tastes. They only want the best. And for them, there's Fancy Feast gourmet cat food. Exceptionally moist and delicious. Fancy Feast. Good taste is easy to recognize.
Mark McKay here now from Look at Sports. Over the weekend, we saw the conference tournaments all wind up, and now March Madness really gets underway.
Yeah, Thursday we will have it all kick off. The seeds planted, the travel schedules are all set. Yes, Thursday at high noon in the East, the trek toward the Final Four will begin. 64 men's teams are enrolled in the NCAA tournament. Only one will stand tall 3 weeks from tonight in Charlotte, North Carolina. Of course, the Tar Heels would like nothing more than to clinch their second straight championship in their home state. UNC is the top seed in the East region. Purdue leads the 16-team field in the Southeast. The nation's #1 team, Arkansas, tops in the Midwest. Missouri is the one to watch in the West. Who says one player can't carry an entire team on his little back? Boilermakers Glenn Robinson disagrees. He led Purdue to the Big Ten title yesterday with a win over Illinois early on. His point total would just balloon. In the first half, the steal and the jam puts Robinson's point total up to a dirty dozen. Midway through the second half, he's already got 42 points on the board. None prettier than those two, plus the foul. How's he finish it off with a three? A career-best 49-point afternoon as the Boilermakers finish atop the Big Ten for the first time since 1988. One game in front of Michigan. From the NBA, Suns Magic, a little distraction technique from Charles Barkley, pulling on Shaquille O'Neal's trunks as he waits for the jump ball to fly. O'Neal tapped it a little too hard. The Suns got an easy hoop, thanks to Charles. Well, Shaq gets his payback here by sending Barkley down with the big elbow to the eardrum. Ouch. Kevin Johnson, a great day. Gets the shot off the glass, fouled. KJ with a 30-point afternoon, but Shaquille had 39. 2 goes down right here, plus the foul, tied at 87. But Barkley got off the deck and put down 30. And check out this. How'd he do it? Falling backwards. Suns lead by 7. They win by the same margin. Phoenix has taken 3 in a row. Let's roll out the scoreboard. John Daly has to consider his comeback after 4 months away from the PGA Tour a success with a 4th-place finish in the Honda Classic down in Fort Lauderdale. It was worth about $43,000, but here's the guy who took the top prize in South Florida. How'd he do it? With beautiful shots like this one on the 2nd hole. The approach shot to the green, and check out the mean left-hand turn that this ball takes. It didn't go in, but it did pull Price to within 1 shot of the leader. Price would then seize the lead on his own with birdie putts like this one right here. Nick Price finishes 1 better than Craig Perry. The win was worth $198,000. Sports tonight tees off on the highs and lows that lie ahead on this Sports Day. Highlights, scores, and more at 11 p.m. Eastern. And I'll see you again next hour with more pre-tourney talk as we count down to the ultimate crowning of college basketball's next champion. Donna, Leon.
Thank you, Mark. You know, spring is just 1 week away.
That's right. That means warmer weather and hay fever.
This is your CNN allergy forecast based on pollen readings and weather data from across the U.S. High amounts of tree pollen is expected across much of Florida due to cypress, hickory, mulberry, and oak trees. Also expect high pollen counts in Southern California and Arizona due to mulberry, pine, and willow. The pollen season continues to move slowly northward, although levels should still be low from the mid-Atlantic to the Midwest because of cedar, elm, and maple. The forecast for Tuesday calls for lower pollen levels in the Pacific Northwest due to rain and clouds. Pollen counts, though, will be on the increase through sections of New Mexico to South Texas as clouds gradually give way to more sunshine across that area. I'm CNN meteorologist Dave Hennon.
Allergy Forecast is brought to you by Tylenol Allergy Sinus. Allergy relief clear to your sinuses.
When America goes on vacation, that's when I go to work. Problem is, it's also when I get really tough allergies. Not just sneezing and watery eyes, it's sinus pain and pressure. I tried another allergy medicine, but it didn't work on all my symptoms.
That's why there's Tylenol Allergy Sinus. Its 3 powerful medicines relieve more symptoms than the leading allergy medicine.
Out here, I need something that works. Because this job isn't just a walk in the park.
Tylenol Allergy Sinus. Allergy relief clear to your sinuses.
My company has put in computers, networks, all the best software. And you know what I'm afraid of? I'm afraid that we've spent more than we can ever hope to get out of it. We have literally invested millions. And for all that, our productivity is only up 2%. We keep upgrading our computers. Could the answer be as simple as upgrading our people?
The Cadillac DeVille, all new for 1994.
Its reshaped design has really taken off. And now for a limited time, DeVille lets you take a couple of years off from car payments. For a single upfront payment of $11,264, you can relax for 24 months. And by making all your payments in advance, you save $743. The Cadillac DeVille with Smart Lease Plus. It gives your checkbook a rest. Cadillac DeVille, creating a higher standard.
Hotel Views goes on location to see if Holiday Inn can beat Ramada for special values. Jane?
Here's a very exciting deal from Ramada.
It's our new bed and breakfast deal, just $39 to $79 a night.
Wow, you can't beat that. Bob?
Thanks, Jane. Now here's a family who knows the value of Holiday Inn.
Oh, nothing could make us switch.
Excellent. Well, that's all for now. So it's for dinner, huh?
Your favorite?
Oh.
Yeah, meatloaf. Dad, the camera. No. Looks like for special values, Ramada's in. Holiday's out.
In our lifestyle segment this morning, some expert advice on getting your home ready for Easter. Martha Stewart is the authority for lots of people on ways to add special touches around the house. She's a well-known television personality, hosting a weekly syndicated show. She's also a former caterer who shares advice on everything from preparing the perfect meal to making your own table decorations. And she has a reputation as an arbiter of good taste. She also publishes a bi-monthly magazine, Martha Stewart Living. Martha joins us this morning from our New York bureau to show us how to make some Easter baskets, among other things. Morning, Martha.
Good morning. How are you, Donna?
I'm just fine, thanks. It's good to have you join us. Let's start perhaps with some of the things that you think would be nice to put into Easter baskets.
Well, first of all, the colored eggs. Every year I have this great big Easter egg hunt. So I'll make very brilliantly colored eggs to hide. Last year we made 800 colored eggs.
How long did that take you?
Well, we had 40 kids coming for the hunt, so it took, you know, afternoon. But I have a lot of glass bowls like this, clear glass bowls, into which I put boiling water. And then a tablespoon of vinegar, white vinegar. This helps set the color. It's just the plain old white vinegar that you get at the supermarket. And then these are the very accessible food colorings that come in the 4 colors, yellow, green, red, and blue. Those are liquid food colorings. You can use this or you can use the more professional paste colors if you like. But I find that these work just fine, and if you follow the formulas on the box, you can make lavender and turquoise and all kinds of wonderful greens and yellows and golds. So these are very, very simple. And you just put into the boiling water the intensity of color, as many drops as you want. This and always work on a surface that you don't mind getting stained. So I always suggest that first, if you're working on your kitchen counters, cover it with a plastic garbage bag and then put newspaper on top of that, or brown craft paper. This is a very washable surface that I'm working on, painted surface, so it doesn't matter if we get some spills. Then boil some. This is for these beautiful striped eggs that we made in the magazine. We give the directions. We call them double dipping. It's sort of a takeoff on the old Czechoslovakian or Ukrainian wax process that they use for those very elaborate eggs. This is much simplified. So in this pan is beeswax that has been melted. You can see it's sort of a dark golden color. It's pure beeswax, and it's kind of fun to work with. You could also try to use paraffin, but the beeswax works so much better that it's a good idea to get the beeswax.
Can you find beeswax everywhere?
In craft stores, yes, and you can also find them in if you're going to, you know, if you have bees, you can get it out of the beehive. You know, very practical. Okay, so take your egg. And this is a hard-boiled egg that I'm using. And you dip in, if you want to do a colored center, just dip into the wax and let it harden before you turn it. It hardens almost instantaneously. So this way I'm going to have a broad band. Whatever you're covering with the wax is not going to be colored. You understand that? You're just going to be coloring that part of the egg. Now I have one that's already dried, and I will just put this into the green food coloring. And you just let it stay in there for about a minute. Then you can see that I've already started here. I'm going to dip this. The top is dipped half in blue. I'll dip the bottom in blue. And you just get a nice, even stripe. Then once you have the intensity of color that you want, dry the egg, and then dip the entire, you can dip right over this blue in the beeswax. Oh, I have a little bit of a hair here. Well, let's see. Just dip it into the beeswax. Now that protects the blue perfectly. And you just do this. You just figure it out as you're going along. And then you put this into a color, and then you put the egg, when you want to melt the beeswax, into a 250-degree oven on a sheet covered with some paper toweling. And you just put that right in here, and you'll get a stripe in the middle. So you can keep going and going and going like that, and you end up with really beautifully delicate eggs and stripes. You can do it this way, you can do it this way, vertically or horizontally, and they do make beautiful eggs. If you want to blow the eggs out, once you've colored them, we found a really easy way to blow an egg out now. You know, you used to have to go make a hole in each end and blow out like this, and it's like blowing up balloons.
What do you use to make the little hole in the end, though, so you don't crush it?
Yeah, here. With a hat pin, just make a hole in the end of the egg. Hold the egg very gently, and you have to really kind of maneuver that hat pin, and they're pierced right through the egg. Now you have to do that carefully so that you don't break the egg, and then just sort of crack around like this. Then stir the egg up, and I made a bigger hole on this side for time. Stir the egg up, kind of scramble it around with a bamboo skewer. Make that hole, both holes, a little nice, not too large. And then with a baby syringe, watch this, you just blow through the top hole and you'll see the egg come right out. So it saves all that time. This is one of those little, isn't that easy?
Yeah, I was wondering what you're going to get that egg out with.
Yeah, so it really works. Then rinse the egg out with a little bit of warm water. If you don't rinse it in about a week or so, you're going to have a bunch of smelly eggs. And
Isn't that the truth? There are a lot of deviled eggs and egg salad. Let's go ahead and take a quick break here, shall we, Martha? And then we'll open it up to phone calls, and we'll come back and have more of a chat with Martha Stewart. And you can join us with your questions at 404-221-1855.
Remember when this picture was taken? We had just become grandparents.
That was 10 years ago. That's when we started our Globe Long Life $10,000 insurance policies. By starting our policies then, we were able to lock in on rates that never increase.
Don't wait to start your Globe Long Life protection. The rate you pay is based on your age when you start the policy.
Call this toll-free number to receive complete information and applications for this policy by return mail. It's easy to apply. No physical exams, just answer a few health questions. And the policy's level benefit can never be reduced.
And right now, you can start a $10,000 long life policy for $1. $1 pays the premium for this policy for the first month.
Call Globe today.
For complete information and applications, call 1-800-833-4051. Call Globe today at 1-800-833-4051.
Liz, if it occurs to you, I need my airline tickets, huh?
Oh, look, we're going to need you to pitch in on that budget analysis.
You know, I'd love to, but you know, I'm on the road at the Hyatt.
Okay.
Mr. Dennis, I can call the Hyatt and they can get you a computer. And an in-room fax machine so you can do all the work you need to do right there.
Gee, thanks, Liz.
With Hyatt's new business plan, you can do a lot more business away from business.
And you can get right to work in your room, sir.
Have you met my secretary?
We've thought of everything at the Hyatts of the Northeast.
Rookie Nick Van Exel meets Carl Malone. Lakers, Jazz, tonight at 9 Eastern. Then tomorrow, Shaq invades Chicago. Magic, Bulls, tomorrow at 8 Eastern.
On TNT.
And we're just about set to take your phone calls. First, Martha, we promised that we would talk about living Easter baskets, so let's do that first.
Well, I like to do living Easter baskets and living centerpieces. And really what it is these old wooden boxes or baskets or whatever you have, line them with plastic and fill them with a good rich soil. This is a potting soil right in this box. And just layer the dirt in there as high as you'd like it, and plant wheatgrass or ryegrass, something that will sprout in just a few days. And in a couple days, you have these beautiful, just smooth it out, mist it with water, and sprinkle very, very heavily the grass seed. This is a very nice thing to do because in a couple days, look at these baskets that you have, filled with, this is a fine grass, this is a heavier grass, and the baskets are so pretty. And they
That
do
is
really,
a great idea.
Doesn't it look great? Mm-hmm. I think it's so pretty. And then you just tie the basket, fill it with your colored eggs, and tie it with a brilliantly colored ribbon, and you have a very, very natural and very attractive, I think, Easter basket.
And then when you're through with Easter, if you have a hole in your lawn or some patch, you can take it out and plant it there.
Patch in the sod, or I was thinking today, just feed it to the chickens, whatever. I mean, it's a delightful thing. So a nice early spring snack. But it's really, really a gorgeous idea. And look, when you make these eggs in quantity, how pretty they look. Just in a bowl like this, they'd make a beautiful, beautiful centerpiece for your Easter table.
First caller for us this morning is from Ohio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, you're on the air, Ohio.
Yes, I'd like to ask if you have anything else more interesting than the cellophane they sell in the stores to put in a child's Easter basket.
Well, that's what we're doing. We're doing grass in a basket. I think kids love this. They really have a feeling for nature when they see this. You can also put really nice golden straw instead of the artificial. Straw is very pretty and light.
Washington, D.C., good morning.
Hi, Martha. My name's Tina, and I so enjoyed your Christmas book this year and did a lot of the crafty ideas you had. And I'm wondering if you'll be coming out with more of the crafty type of books rather than, say, your hors d'oeuvre book. And
well, this year I'm coming out with a book called Menus for Entertaining, which has a lot of ideas for nice decorating, very easy and pretty decorating. But but I don't have a craft book coming out yet. But look in the magazine. We have a section called Good Things that shows that something just as pretty and simple as a little egg cup like that for the soft-boiled eggs for the kids, with a little grass. But look in the Good Things section of the magazine. I think you'll get a lot of good ideas.
Connecticut, you're on the air.
Hello. I wonder if you could help me. I'm interested to know where you obtain the baby syringe to blow out the egg.
Oh, any drugstore. Just ask them for it. It's available. You know, it's just the same little thing you use for babies. Mucus.
How about brunch? What do you suggest for Easter brunch?
Well, I'm of Polish heritage, so we always have a very large and delicious brunch. We have kielbasa, of course, on rye bread with the beet horseradish, and we have smoked fish. I always do some sort of ham. This year I'm doing a fresh ham that's cooked in freshly cut grass that I'll grow myself. And it gives a very lovely flavor to the fresh ham. I also do a babka cake, a great big yeast cake. The Italians also have lovely dessert ideas for Easter, and you can borrow some of their ideas. But so we'll do that, and we'll always do a lemon pound cake with a lemon glaze. There's asparagus, all the fresh spring vegetables, maybe the sugar snap peas, and a gratin of potatoes.
Sounds great.
You know, a nice, hearty, delicious Easter lunch.
Miss the old days being a stockbroker on Wall Street?
Well, sometimes, but not too much.
It's just great to have you with us. Lifestyle consultant Martha Stewart, thank you so much.
Thank you, Donald.
I hope she found all 800 of those eggs.
Oh, isn't that the truth? Because if you don't find them then, you find them later. You can follow the smell.
Well, coming up for the second hour of the morning news this morning, we're going to meet a 16-year-old high school student who has learned all of the ins and outs of the stock market.
We'll get a preview of the upcoming Academy Awards and find out which films are the front runners in the race for Oscar.
And we'll meet an actress from The Young and the Restless this morning and find out why her work on behalf of the nation's children is among her top priorities. Stay with us.
Morning news continues, followed by Living in the 90s. After this local commercial break, here on CNN.
1 out of 7 Boston residents has no health insurance. Are you one? Chances are you're not getting the health care you need because you can't afford it. You know, regular checkups for pregnant women, children, seniors, all of us can keep simple health problems from becoming an emergency. Call the Mayor's Health Line at 534-5050. We're a free confidential information and referral service. Call 534-5050 and take care of your health.
Nobody else has it.
Not ESPN.
Not Sports Channel.
Only Headline News has the sports ticker. Continuously updated scores, both college and pro.
In a flash, the latest scores while the games are still in progress.
At 20 and 50 past the hour, Headline News covers sports.
And now the sports ticker updates scores weekday evenings beginning at 6 Eastern.
And around the clock, all weekend long.
Headline News sports ticker. Now you'll always know the score.
In McAllen, Texas, auto theft was reaching epidemic proportions until the city and its people fought auto theft together with a club and reduced auto theft by over 44%. Fort Wayne, Indiana had the same auto theft problem and put the club to work in their neighborhoods too. The result, auto theft was reduced by 44% in just 4 months. In addition, not one car was stolen with the club in use, making it 100% effective in keeping cars theft-free.
Accept no imitations. Make sure the anti-theft device you buy says the club on the handle.
Celtics a 3-on-1 on a
Being around professional athletes, I know how hard it is to work to stay in shape and how difficult it is to find that suit that really fits. That's why Eastern Clothing has that special design athletic cut suit.
The athletic cut suit at Eastern Clothing with wider shoulders and a narrow waist. It's custom made for those who work out.
So if you work hard to look good, you want a suit that fits.
This is CNN.
Welcome to the second hour of CNN Morning News. I'm Donna Kelly.
And I'm Leon Harris. We begin this hour with a look at our top stories this morning. The state of Florida is planning legal action to recover the high cost of services for illegal aliens. A new state report says that Florida state and its local governments paid $884 million last year for education, health care, and other services to undocumented immigrants. Governor Lawton Chiles says the federal government is enforcing immigration laws selectively, making Florida a haven for illegals. Chiles wants federal reimbursement for the money that Florida taxpayers are spending. Meanwhile, immigration authorities are videotaping warnings to illegal immigrants about the dangers of crossing the U.S. border into desert areas of the Southwest. 30-second videos are being distributed throughout Mexico and Guatemala. Authorities say that many illegal aliens from tropical areas have no concept of long stretches of desert and 130-degree temperatures. At least 100 of them have died trying to cross the deserts in the past 10 years.
A bond hearing is set today for the man accused of killing 10 women in Charlotte, North Carolina. Police arrested Henry Louis Wallace on Saturday, charged him with 10 counts of murder. The killings created an atmosphere of terror for women in the area. The body of the most recent victim was discovered just hours before Wallace was arrested. In early February, police arrested Wallace on a theft charge and released him the same day. They describe him as a man who killed and robbed to support his crack cocaine habit. There is a big political scandal today in a small Arizona town. Rex Byrd, the mayor of Quartzsite, is accused of trying to hire someone to kill a political rival. The price tag for the alleged hit was $10,000. The 70-year-old mayor and a body shop owner were arrested on Saturday and charged with conspiracy. The two allegedly plotted to kill the town's former mayor, Richard Oldham. Residents say Byrd and Oldham have been feuding for years.
The British government today rejected an offer by the Irish Republican Army to renew talks on ending Britain's 25-year-old conflict with Northern Ireland. Britain says it will not talk with the IRA until it renounces violence. Yesterday, mortar shells slammed into London's Heathrow airport for the third time in a week. None of the mortars exploded, and police say that there was no damage or any injuries. Police are still worried about Heathrow today, though. They're searching around an airport security fence for additional mortars and launchers that they fear may be buried there. In Turkey, at least 12 people are dead and 14 others are missing following a fiery collision between an oil tanker and a freighter. The accident occurred last night in Istanbul's Bosphorus Strait. Officials say the 19-mile strait between the Black Sea and the Sea of Marmara is closed to shipping today while debris from the accident is being cleaned up.
The Central Intelligence Agency reportedly has told some of its clandestine operatives to lie low after the arrest of Rick Ames. The former Soviet counterintelligence branch chief was arrested last month on charges that he spied for Russia. The New York Times quotes unnamed officials as saying the Ames arrest has caused the CIA to reopen its files on cases involving drugs, a defection, and even the death of an officer.
In Detroit, Michigan this hour, President Clinton is scheduled to address labor and economic ministers from the world's most powerful industrial nations. Jobs are at the center of Mr. Clinton's keynote speech at a two-day conference on jobs at the group of 7 industrial countries being held in Detroit. Mr. Clinton visited a job training center in Detroit yesterday. He called the current world unemployment situation a crisis, saying industrial nations must work together on jobs, training, and trade. The Commerce Secretary Ron Brown told CNN this morning the administration is pleased with the U.S. economic recovery, and he rejected criticism that few jobs are being created. Mr. Clinton's speech will be followed by working sessions between G7 cabinet-level officials. Recommendations from the conference will go to G7 leaders for discussion at their Naples summit in July.
A Republican senator is acknowledging what Democrats have said all along. Partisan politics are at play where Whitewater's concerned. Senator John McCain of Arizona told CNN yesterday there is an element of payback in Republican bashing of President Clinton over Whitewater. Mrs. Clinton is on the road to talk health care reform today. She broke her silence in a pair of magazine interviews. Regarding the Whitewater land deal, she says, "My goodness, we made lots of mistakes. We never should have made the investment, for one." And she said, clearly, there were lots of missteps along the way. I'd be the first to say that, and obviously I wish there were not, because this thing has gotten blown so out of proportion.
Just ahead of the morning news, would you let a high school sophomore handle all of your investments? Well,
probably
believe it or not, it's not that risky an idea. This morning, we'll be visited by a sophomore who is very good at these things, coming up shortly.
Also ahead in Showbiz News, a behind-the-scenes glimpse at what it takes to win an Academy Award.
Hometown proud. It's more than just a feeling. For your locally owned IGA supermarket, it's a way of life. While the global buying power of 4,000 IGA stores means hometown savings, like Nabisco's Triscuits, Wheat Thins, and better cheddar crackers, and delicious home cooking and chunky soups from Campbell's. Hometown savings. At IGA, it's one more reason we're hometown proud.
IGA.
A puzzle. With so many stomach remedies around, how do you know which you can take for heartburn? And for diarrhea? And for upset stomach? For most any common stomach problem, the answer is Pepto-Bismol. And for a more advanced medicine made especially for diarrhea, the answer is Pepto Diarrhea Control. It often stops diarrhea in just one dose.
I really didn't want my husband to color his gray hair.
But then I discovered this, the hair coloring called Just for Men.
And now he looks better than ever.
Apply Just for Men, and in 5 minutes, rinse. No wonder 8 out of 10 wives prefer the natural Just for Men look to gray hair.
It's like you took off 10 years.
With Just for Men hair color. And now, new Just for Men color gel for the hard-to-color hair of mustaches and beards. Brush in, rinse out, just 5 minutes.
Easter dinner just seems a little bit off without it. The Durkee green bean casserole. Made only with Durkee French fried onions.
TV Guide says cheers to Mary Tillotson and CNN and Company, a hard-hitting public affairs show in the tradition of Brinkley and McLaughlin. Real talk about today's issues. CNN and Company today, 11:30 Eastern on CNN.
Well, 1 year ago, Dave Hennon, you would not have been out playing tennis like you were yesterday.
I'm telling you.
No, that I wouldn't have been. You guys probably remember exactly where you were.
Oh, yeah, all too well.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty, and pretty nasty up and down the East Coast, but nothing like that today. Thankfully, it is pretty nice across most areas. In fact, it was very warm in the west yesterday, and more warm temperatures on tap for the west coast today. As we take a look at the satellite picture showing some storminess that is trying to move into the west, but there is a big ridge of high pressure that is pushing most of the activity towards the north. So there will be some storminess that will begin, we think, to move into the Pacific Northwest beginning later on tonight and tomorrow. But it will remain warm in sections of southern California California. LA yesterday up to 89 degrees at the Civic Center. That broke a record. And at Lindbergh Field in San Diego, they made it up to 87 degrees and set a record high temperature there as well. There's some storminess in the northeast with some rain showers, but nothing major going on. Just a lot of warm, mild air covering much of the Midwest into the southwest. Highs into the 70s as far north as Nebraska today. Even some 90s expected in Death Valley, California, where it reached up towards the 90-degree mark yesterday, around 92 degrees, more warm temperatures on tap. As we take a look at the weather maps later on today, low pressure, series of fronts will be moving through the northeast, and as we get into late in the day on Tuesday into Tuesday morning, more fronts and more cool air that will continue to keep things rather chilly across the Midwest and the East over the next several days. We have a storm in the southwest. We'll talk more about that coming up in about a half an hour. Don and Leon.
All right, thanks, Dave. Well, the first hybrid Taurus rocket has put 2 satellites into orbit.
3, 2, 1, 0. We have ignition, of course.
And as you see there yesterday, the Taurus blasted off from California's Vandenberg Air Force Base, carrying 2 satellites.
One has 10 Pentagon experiments designed to make space systems that require less ground control, and the purpose of the other satellites? Classified. Columbia astronauts are busy testing a new attachment for a shuttle robotic arm today. The 50-foot arm is designed to allow for easier handling of satellites and other space cargo. Also today, the astronauts lowered Columbia's orbit so they can study the fuzzy glow that appears when gases collide with shuttle surfaces.
Still to come in the morning news. He's only a high school sophomore, but he's got a stock portfolio that has Wall Street taking notice. We're going to meet this guy coming up.
You will meet this financial whiz kid and find out how he got his financial savvy.
I never worry about money. I'm organized with Quicken. I always know exactly where my money goes and exactly how much I have. I can see what we spend in any given month or on any given item that fast. Wait a minute. I thought we already paid the insurance. Yeah, thought so. What about entering all this data? Well, that's the best part. See how easy? Quicken remembers my car payment, my phone bill. Oh, wait, it's different this time. Each check goes in a category automatically. So a keystroke gives me detailed reports like all these and more. And it's fast. I can reconcile my bank statement in about 2 minutes. And tracking all your other finances is just as easy. So if you have a PC with DOS or Windows or a Mac, call now to try Quicken for $8. That's right, only $8 to try Quicken for 60 days. Call now.
Call 1-800-624-2106.
Bill's such an active guy. I sure didn't expect to hear him talking about retirement.
Yep. Every year like clockwork, straight in the OIRA.
Bill, you're never going to retire. You're going to run forever.
Well, who said anything about retiring? That's the time for me to do what I want.
That's going to take financial independence.
That's the plan.
Whatever your retirement goals, the key to achieving them is to have a plan. Fidelity Investments can help you get there.
We saved and saved to move into a new house. But as I finished our change of address cards, I saw we have to pay more attention to the most important savings of all.
IRA statement. Look at that.
Oh, boy.
We got to do better than this.
Ooh, I agree. We got to move this, too.
Fidelity offers a wide range of mutual funds for your retirement savings. And now, for Fidelity retirement investors, we've waived the sales charges on more than a dozen of our stock mutual funds. So call Fidelity today for a free IRA fact kit, including Fidelity's retirement planning guide. Call 1-800-372-5959.
Coming up to 13 minutes after the hour. After 2 days of gloomy reports, Secretary of State Warren Christopher had an upbeat assessment of his trip to China. Christopher's final meeting in Beijing was with Chinese Foreign Minister Chan Chichon, and when it ended, the Secretary of State said that the Chinese had turned over information on political prisoners and agreed to work on immigration problems. From Beijing, Secretary Christopher flew to the Russian port city of Vladivostok, where he met with Russian Foreign Minister Andrei Kozyrev. The two discussed, among other things, extending the ceasefire in Sarajevo to other parts of Bosnia-Herzegovina.
You know, most parents wouldn't even consider taking financial advice from their children. But if your child just happens to be a 16-year-old financial whiz, well, that's a different story. CNN's Ed Garston introduces us now to this impressive young man with a very impressive portfolio.
These are some of my most important books, and right here you see Trump, The Art of the Deal. I read that early on as a 5th grader. and I read Iacocca next. On this side of the wall, you see all the top gators of all the times, of all the top gators that I've had since I started my mutual fund.
Yes, at mid-adolescence, Matt Cito, high school student, is a wheeling, dealing financier with his own mutual fund.
What I do is I take a few investors' money and then I put it into a big pool of money.
9 investors so far, including his father's 12 grand.
It's okay. It wouldn't be worse. In no way he will perform worse in the bank. So I let him handle it.
And his older sister's life savings.
And he just sort of looked at me one day and said, you know, I can do a lot for that money. And so I put it in, and I've got a lot on return from him.
The Matt Cito Fund has about $30,000 in assets. Not big, but not bad for a teenage arbitreur. For about an hour each afternoon, Cito swaps tips and advice with the players at the Schwab brokerage office.
You have a certain point that you're going to sell.
When its growth rate doesn't justify its PE anymore.
From talking to him, he's intelligent, and he thinks things out. He's going to go places.
Like right to Wall Street.
Hopefully I'll take over the world.
Preferably before 12th grade.
I'll see you later, Miss Burgess, Mr. Tabak. Bye. See you, Matt. See you later, guys.
Matt Cito joins us this morning from our Detroit bureau. Thanks for coming in. How you doing?
Pretty good, and yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad. You know, I'm awfully surprised to meet you. I'm glad I'm getting a chance to here. You look like a normal kid. Just can't seem to figure out what a 15-year-old boy is doing reading Trump's Art of the Deal. What got into you in the 5th grade?
Well, I knew early on that money was the way to control the world, and that's the way I wanted to do it.
Wait a minute, you wanted to control the world in the 5th grade?
Well, I knew I had to get an early start.
Well, what got you started in the first place? Well, most kids are thinking about putting up posters of Michael Jordan and things like that on their walls. You got all kinds of stock information on your walls. What got into you? Now, what inspired you?
Well, in 4th grade, my dad gave me a little glimmer into the business, and from then on, I really took off on it, and I saw that there was money to be made in the stock market. And it was a wonderful place. It's interesting, and it's fun.
How in the world did you convince your family to back you on this one? You got your sister to give you $500. I couldn't give my sister to give me $2. How did you get her to give you all her money?
Well, I had to tell her that I'd give her more than that $500 back, and it's persistency.
She believed you?
What?
And she believed you?
Yeah, and I guess she did. Well, she's happy.
Well, how do you get people to take you seriously, let alone your family members? How do you deal with adults who are out there actually in the business of trading stocks and trading money around like that?
Well, I have to perform better than the older people because simply I am handicapped by my age. But that's basically what I do. I show them the numbers, and if they don't like it, then they don't invest, and if they do, they invest.
You know what's amazing to me, you're speaking of what you're handicapped by, from what I understand, your parents would not let you get certain periodicals. They won't let you get magazines. They won't let you use software for your computer or carry one of those little stock beepers and things like that. How are you able to do this? How are you able to pick what's going to win and what's not going to win if you don't have it at your avail, everything that the real guys out there have?
Well, I use certain assets that are around me, but I'm able to get around it because Charles Schwab has great computers that I'm able to use. And the library has a ton of these things that a lot of people don't realize.
Really? So,
yeah.
So now tell someone like me who's never done this before how to be just like Matt Cito when I grow up.
Pardon me?
Tell me how to be like you when I grow up. How do I, what is it that I need to do to go in and learn about all these computers and everything?
Well, I just tell you to get as much information as possible. And that information is the best way to be a winner on Wall Street, I guess.
So what was your first big pick?
Cybertech. It happened about 1 3/4 years ago, and it was a pretty risky stock, but it paid off.
Yeah. So how do you decide what it is that you're going to pick next anyway? You're saying that you can actually predict the swings of the market, and apparently your fund is doing very well. You picked up, from what I understand, 38%. Is that right, in 1 year?
Yeah. Well, it's not completely 1 year. It's about 11 months. And then I'm hoping to tack on a few more percentage points there. But I think I'm a big fan of Peter Lynch, and what he says is true in that you should use the stuff around you and buy stocks where you like the products.
And Lynch he's a good person to follow.
Yeah.
Now, I also understand that you wrote to IBM and Ford to invite them to invest in your fund. You ever hear anything from them?
Well, IBM wrote back, and their chief investment officer told me that I could give him a call anytime, to ask him about anything, but Ford never responded.
Now, since you're now starting to get more and more notoriety for these things, do people walk up to you and ask you for advice, or what happens to you now? When you go to school?
Sometimes people, they call me and they want to just talk stocks, and I think that's fun. And people, I sometimes, like at Wendy's, some guy might want to shake my hand, and I give him my business card.
A 60-year-old with business cards. You can't be a normal. How do people treat you at school? How do your friends treat you?
Oh, well, they just treat me normal. It's no big deal to them. You know, they just take me as the average kid.
Yeah? Well, have you thought about how much you would charge for advice? As I understand, you can't charge, right? Is that true? You cannot charge for your advice right now?
Well, I charge as much as they pay me.
As much as they pay you, okay.
Yeah.
There you go. You're going to be a politician if you don't make it big in the stock market. Now, how is it that you get your parents to help you? Because from what I understand, you're too young, aren't you, to actually go to the bank and make these transactions yourself?
Yeah, well, it took a little while, but when I first convinced my dad to do the transactions for me, he did them, and then so from now on, every single time that I have to do a trade, he has to authorize it.
Matt Cito, thank you very much for coming in and talking with us this morning, and best of luck to you.
Welcome.
All right, Don?
Well, coming up next in Showbiz News, you can bet on this. A feisty former First Lady bulls her way to the head of the line at the box office.
Not once. When will you people get that?
There's so much to do in Texas, it's easy to pretend you're in a whole other country.
For vacation this year, we visited the great historic missions of Spain.
This is Texas, Marge.
Huh? We're here on Loch Ness, searching for the Loch Ness Monster. Oh, could that be it?
That's my bait here.
Call 1-800-8888-TEX, and you'll get our new 272-page Texas travel guide free to help plan your vacation.
The European Masters. Now, you don't find great works of art like this just anywhere.
You do in Texas, Marge.
Oh, Mexico. There's nothing like it.
Except we're in Texas, Marge, not Mexico.
Well, we're still having a mighty fine time right here in Australia! Don't touch that kangaroo, dear.
Call 1-800-8888-TEX for your free Texas travel guide and discover why Texas is like a whole other country.
Oh, he's so cute. Oh, honey. Why, we'd love to see you. Tomorrow?
I didn't do it. Really.
The Bissell Big Green Clean Machine. For just a room or your entire home. Your carpet looks cleaner, smells fresher, and lasts longer. A professionally cleaned look.
And now, introducing Bissell Carpet Care Allergen Control Formula to help remove allergy-causing dust mites, pollen, and pet dander.
Kimberly Twigg, Kimberly Mays. She was switched at birth, but adopted children often face Kimberly's choice. Whom do I want as a parent? Today on Sonia Live, 1 p.m. Eastern, only on CNN.
Moviegoers bought about $7 million worth of tickets to see Guarding Tess over the weekend. The comedy about a Secret Service agent guarding a testy former First Lady stars Nicolas Cage and Shirley MacLaine. The estimated take for Tess put it at the top of the weekend box office sweepstakes, followed by the new Paul Hogan Western, Lightning Jack, and then Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. The ref debuted in 4th place, followed by Schindler's List.
And speaking of Schindler's List, the Writers Guild of America have named that movie the best adapted screenplay from a novel. Written by Steven Zaillian, story of a German industrialist credited with saving Polish Jews during the Holocaust, was directed by Steven Spielberg. And the Best Original Screenplay Award went to writer Jane Campion for The Piano, a film about a mail-order bride played by Holly Hunter. Campion also directed that movie.
And it's winning awards like that that gets attention in Hollywood and then often leads to winning on Oscar night.
Now, all this week, we're going to be looking at the fierce competition and the politics and all the marketing within the film community to win one of those coveted Academy Awards. Here's CNN's Jim Murray.
Right on, let's go.
It officially begins in early January, 3-month period leading up to the Oscars, which could easily be referred to as award season and which propels its winners into the Oscar race.
It's a great honor to be standing in front of the people I occasionally fear.
But rather than being judged by a jury of their peers, Winners are chosen by the critics in Los Angeles, Boston, New York, and beyond.
This is a movie that the critics could have easily made or broken. And had this film not been embraced on that level to begin with, it would have not found the kind of audience that it's finding now, almost because of the critical response. So I owe a lot to the critics on this occasion.
Apparently, so do Oscar nominees. Consider this. Virtually all the critics' top choices this year earned an Academy Award nomination.
Thank you very much.
11-year-old Anna Paquin was nominated for Best Supporting Actress in The Piano after receiving her LA Critics Award. The Los Angeles critics chose Leonardo DiCaprio as Best Supporting Actor. The Academy nominations followed for What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Holly Hunter, who received almost universal praise from the critics groups for her work in The Piano, was considered a shoo-in for the nomination she ultimately received.
The media loves to talk about the Academy Awards. Los Angeles likes to start contemplating the award ceremony in November, and they happen, what, in March?
This is a hyperbolic society we live in, you know, and particularly in Southern California. Nothing is ever simply good. It's the greatest thing in the history of the world.
Tommy Lee Jones was named the best in the world as supporting actor in The Fugitive by both the Los Angeles Film Critics and Golden Globe Awards. Perhaps more than any other Hollywood event, the Golden Globes are often referred to as the dress rehearsal for the Oscars. The Hollywood Foreign Press Association, which hands out the Golden Globe Awards, has no connection with the Academy and clearly won't determine who takes home the Oscar. Still, the Golden Globe winners will help shape the list of Oscar contenders, since they'll still be fresh in the minds of Academy voters as they cast their ballots for nominations. The Golden Globe winner for virtually every category, from Best Actor and Actress, Best Picture, Best Foreign Language Film, even Best Director, all received Academy Award nominations this year.
Well, you know, the awards, fit into our lives, between December and March, once a year, and they can help certain films. And certain films, are given a boost because of the recognition that certain organizations give those films.
Okay. Well, this will be a big surprise. Schindler's List.
Just 2 weeks before the Oscars, the coveted Directors Guild Trophy is presented. 41 of the last 44 DGA award winners have collected the Oscar for Best Director.
This is so heavy. I keep hugging this thing. I'm going to go to bed with it tonight. Also with Katie, my wife.
Perhaps the most memorable event leading up to the Oscars isn't a competition at all. It's the nominees' luncheon, where all the contenders are invited and honored together. Oscar-winning documentary filmmaker Saul Bass believes that's what the Academy Awards are all about.
This is the grand moment when there is no winner, there is no best, because they're all best.
The greatest honor is to be nominated, and especially with a company that I'm able to keep.
Jim Moray, CNN Entertainment News, Hollywood.
And program notes, Susan Rook and Jim Moray will host a special live edition of CNN Presents, and the winner is?
That will air this Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on CNN, and Jim can get some more mileage on that tux.
You
nice
bet.
Tux, I like that.
Still to come on CNN Morning News from the steamy set of The Young and the Restless. Actress Victoria Rowell will be along to take your phone calls.
Also, a novel inspiration, Foods of the Bible. More than loaves and fishes coming up in our Food and Health segment. Stay with us.
This Goodwill Games moment is brought to you by Delta.
1990, the Goodwill Games at the 100-meter dash. In lane 4, Carl Lewis, a 6-time Olympic champion and world's fastest human, the greatest sprinter since Jesse Owens. In lane 5, his protege Leroy Burrell, unbeaten in 11 races this year. Maintaining his lead from 50 meters on, Burrell wins, outrunning Lewis for the first time and handing King Carl a rare defeat.
Coming this summer on TBS.
In business, there never seems to be enough of it. And the last thing you can afford to do is run out of it. Time. So rest assured, Delta Airlines will help you make the most of it. With over 4,900 flights a day to over 300 cities around the world. And best of all, we'll make sure you arrive relaxed and refreshed with plenty of time to spare. Delta Airlines.
Morning news continues, followed by Living in the 90s. After this local commercial break, here on CNN.
The secret to living well on a budget is knowing when to buy. I buy toys the week after Christmas, snow skis in the spring, and my furniture when it comes back to Court Furniture Rental. They sell previously leased brand name furniture at fantastic prices. And with savings like that, here's another little secret. You gotta move fast.
Visit Court's clearance centers and find reasonable prices on previously leased office and residential furniture. Stop in and see our buys.
Celtics a 3-on-1 on a pick-me.
Being around professional athletes, I know how hard it is to work to stay in shape and how difficult it is to find that suit that really fits. That's why Eastern Clothing has that special design athletic cut suit.
The athletic cut suit at Eastern Clothing with wider shoulders and a narrow waist. It's custom made for those who work out.
So if you work hard to look good, you want a suit that fits.
This is CNN.
Well, look at you. Looking as fine as you want to be. What's the occasion?
New Year's Eve, take 2.
You probably know her best as a spicy Drusilla, the Young and the Restless, but turns out there's a lot more to actress Victoria Rowell, and we'll find out all about that, and we'll take viewer calls later in our soap opera segment this morning.
And also coming up on CNN Morning News, a check of the nation's forecast. But first, here are some of the other stories that we're covering for you this hour. Israeli police searched houses for weapons today in the Jewish enclave of Hebron, and they detained a prominent rabbi in that West Bank town. The sweep came a day after Israel banned 2 Jewish extremist groups linked to anti-Arab violence in the occupied territories. Israel's army is trying to keep a lid on the anger in Hebron, where a Jewish settler massacred dozens of Palestinians in a mosque. Today, the army turned back hundreds of Arabs heading for Hebron to pray for the victims of that February massacre. A U.S. delegation has arrived in Tunis for talks with PLO leader Yasser Arafat about getting the Middle East peace talks restarted. Arafat met yesterday in Tunis with Russia's Middle East envoy. There's been no official confirmation yet, but a major newspaper in Tokyo is reporting that Japan's Emperor Akihito may visit Pearl Harbor this summer during a trip to the United States. It was Akihito's father, the late Emperor Hirohito, who ordered the Japanese invasion of the naval port near Honolulu, killing an estimated 2,300 U.S. troops and beginning America's involvement in World War II.
The Virginia legislature is opening the state treasury to underwrite Walt Disney Company plans for an American history theme park west of Washington, D.C. On Saturday, lawmakers approved $160 million for special highway improvements, tourism promotion, and employee training. Now, ground could be broken next year for opening day in 1998. Governor George Allen says the project will be the envy of the entire nation. Getting started early with the sales job there. 32 minutes after the hour now, time for checking the morning's financial news. Bill Hartley at the desk in New York. Bill, good morning.
Good morning, Leon. We have some important economic news that's coming out later this week. Figures on inflation. Now, bond traders have been nervous in recent weeks about rising inflation. They have taken bonds down, sending interest rates up. Now today we have the latest reading on business inventories and sales, and it indicates less economic activity. Inventories unchanged in January, while sales fell for the first time in 6 months, down 0.3%. Well, that has the bond market rather confused, so bonds didn't move much on that news, down 7/32 of a point. The bond now yielding 6.92%. That's the Treasury's 30-year. Stocks on Wall Street taking something of a breather after Friday's 32-point rally on the Dow. Traders are nervously awaiting those inflation figures. Right now, the Dow Industrial is hardly moving, down just a fraction at 3862.5. Volume is heavy. 64 million shares have traded so far. Broader and secondary indexes mostly higher. Some stocks in the news today. Northrop's up 1/8 of a point, and Grumman is off by 1/8. Northrop's $2 billion hostile bid for Grumman begins today. Grumman workers could hold the key to which suitor will win the company, Northrop or Martin Marietta. They have a big stake in the company. General Mills up 1/2. The stock hit a 52-week low last week and has been attracting bargain hunters. Motorola picking up 1. This after the U.S. and Japan settled their cellular phone dispute and Motorola allowed into the country. The deal on phones helping the dollar against the yen this morning. It will give the deal will give the U.S. company Motorola broader access to Japan's cellular phone market. Dollar's up 3/4 of a yen, gaining 1/3 of a pfennig on the mark, up 1/3 of a cent against the pound. That's our report for now. I'm Bill Hartley at the CNN Business News Desk in New York.
All right, Bill, thank you. Coming up on CNN Morning News, the North Carolina Tar Heels dig in for another run at college basketball's championship.
Working on that repeat. Mark McKay's got the story in sports, so don't go away.
Steve Jones joined CompuServe because a friend recommended it. He bought his digital deck for the same reason. And it was well reviewed by an expert on the electronics forum. So when Steve added surround sound, he got good advice and a great price right online. With CompuServe, there was always more. Like conferencing cross-country with someone whose system seemed a lot like his. They compared notes. Then Steve checked out airfares and flight schedules. There's only one way to judge an audio system. CompuServe. For more information, call 1-800-554-4080. Start with the basics, news, travel, and encyclopedia, and more for just $8.95 a month. Then go beyond for free software and help with hardware and software problems. You'll get more out of your computer and more out of life. CompuServe, the information service you won't outgrow.
Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens.
The all-new Mitsubishi Galant, filled with thoughtful details.
These are a few of my favorite things.
And now, the new Galant S lease. Just $500 down and $179 a month for 24 months.
These are a few of my favorite things.
The affordable Galant lease. Perhaps the most favorite thing of all.
We have known the places you have known, for you are our brother and sister, the business traveler. You hurry up, you wait. You have suffered much, yet your need is humble.
All I want is a nice, reliable rental car.
Budget hears you. We perform a series of quality checks on every car, so you can count on a great deal and a great car. Oh, Road Warrior, now more than ever, the smart money is on budget.
That's a heck of a winter to have. 92
Right,
degrees.
92
It's not even
in
spring yet
March.
officially. Boy, but real high out in the west. Dave Hitter's got an eye on that. Dave?
Just one in a string of record highs, by the way. We saw a number of records all the way up the West Coast, Sacramento, San Francisco, San Diego, L.A., all seeing record high temperatures. It was 89 degrees in Los Angeles yesterday. It's going to be very warm there again this afternoon, and more 90s on tap for the deserts of Southern California. Cooler air in the southwest. This is because of a frontal system which is bringing some cloudiness and some rain showers, and we're seeing some warmer temperatures into the Midwest, and not too bad in the east either. Let's take a look at some specific forecasts for some cities across North America. Not exactly ski weather in the west, but there are some areas where skiing is good. We'll have the details on that coming up. Donna, Leon?
All right, thanks, Dave. Well, if a Japanese businessman has his way, Tanya Harding will be performing next in a ring at a rink.
The chairman of the All Japan's Women's Pro Wrestling Association says that the United States figure skater has just the image that he is looking for. He says he's willing to pay Harding $2 million to get into the ring.
A Japanese businessman says a representative of the Wrestling Association has been sent to Oregon, and he's going to make Harding an offer. I don't know. What do you think?
A lot
You
of
think she'd
money.
take it?
I don't know. It's an awful lot of money.
Yeah, $2 million is a lot of money to say no to.
If Tanya was matched up with a sumo wrestler, then I would pay. Maybe she could.
I'd pay to see it.
Hey, the heavyweights are getting set for the NCAA tournaments. One of those, North Carolina. The Tar Heels head into tourney play with a half dozen losses, but don't let the 6 defeats fool you. The Heels have also won 27 games this season, many against teams in the tough Atlantic Coast Conference. Dean Smith's crew warmed up for defense of its national crown yesterday by winning the ACC tournament title. They did so against Virginia without Rasheed Wallace for the first 10 minutes of the game. He missed a team meeting by 10 minutes, so Coach Smith sat him down for 10 minutes. And Virginia capitalized in the opening half, hitting from all over the court, from beyond the three-point stripe, and Jeff Jones's club has the early advantage. But the Heels would close the gap quickly. Derek Phelps to Jerry Stackhouse, the layup and the foul. Coach Smith likes what he sees. His team leads by 5. Second half, the team took control. Phelps to Rasheed Wallace. He was sitting, now he's standing. As Dean Smith walks away with his 12th ACC championship, Carolina's 13th overall. Let's run you through the top 4 seeds in each region, beginning in the East, where North Carolina leads the way. Big East regular season champ Connecticut could prove to be a tough 2 seed. The Gators and the Owls, they make up the all-animal team. They're also in the East bracket. The Southeast region has Purdue on top, fresh off a Big Ten title clinching win against Illinois yesterday. ACC regular season champ Duke is in the Southeast, along with SEC tournament champion Kentucky and Kansas out of the Big 8. There you see the Midwest region. Arkansas joined by UMass, Michigan, and Oklahoma State. Missouri's reward for an unbeaten Big 8 regular season is top seeding in the West region. The Tigers and the Cats are 1-2. Denny Crum's Cardinals and Jim Boeheim's Orangemen could make noise despite being so far away from home. Now you've got a taste of who's in. I want you to take a gander at the teams that won't be making NCAA tournament plans this week. Many, including Georgia Tech, will have to settle for NIT bids. The Yellow Jackets beat North Carolina twice, but it did not impress the selection committee, which also put to rest the unfounded rumors of, hey, 20 wins and you're in. For a list of many more winners and losers, check out the Rolling Scoreboard. CNN Sports Tonight is your northern light when navigating through this sports day. Check in at 11 p.m. Eastern. Check out Jim Huber. He reports sports during news hour, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Donna, Leon?
Well, you check out Mark. Thanks very much. Still to come on CNN Morning News, a soap opera update.
That's right. Co-star of Diagnosis Murder joins us. Now, her face should be very familiar to daytime drama fans. Stay with us.
$1 million.
In today's world, managing air travel costs is more important than ever, which is why over 100,000 companies, including half of the Fortune 500, use the same payment system. One with customized billing and reports to help keep corporate travel expenses under control, and the only one that costs nothing to use.
The Air Travel Card. Sounds smart. Let's go with it.
Call 800-222-4688. The Air Travel Card, the smartest route.
Meow, 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 meow.
Something fishy's going on with Meow Mix. They added even more delicious salmon flavor to the chicken, turkey, and salmon tastes cats love. So give him the tastes he's fishing for. Meow Mix brand cat food with more salmon flavor. The only cat food that tastes so good, cats ask for it by name.
What happened here?
Who can resist the golden, buttery, melt-in-your-mouth taste of a Ritz? It's one of a kind. Who can resist a Ritz?
What do you want out of life in the 90s? A healthier lifestyle?
A great wardrobe.
A chance to see the world?
And the best in entertainment.
The 90s are changing.
And so are we.
The new Living in the 90s, today, 11 a.m. Eastern on CNN.
In today's soap opera segment, one of daytime soap's designated desirable women joins us. On The Young and the Restless, she plays the angry and tough Drusilla Barber Winters. She also co-stars in Diagnosis Murder. Offstage, she has a lot of other roles. 4 years ago, she established a scholarship fund for foster children studying classical ballet. Actress Victoria Rowell joins us from Los Angeles. Good morning, Victoria.
Good morning.
It seems like you don't have a lot of time to do other things, but you certainly are very active in charity work. What all do you have on your plate there?
Well, here in Los Angeles, I work over at USC. I chair the Foster Youth Connection, which houses about, I'd say about 8 kids who have been emancipated from foster care. And I work extensively in fundraising so that we can continue to pay our rent for that fraternity house.
We put together the address for that, too, and we want to show viewers that if they're interested in donating. It's Rowell Foster Children's Fine Arts Scholarship Fund, Post Office Box 5983, Boston, Massachusetts, and the zip code is 02114. Why foster children?
Well, it's my background. I come from a foster care upbringing. I had a very fortunate experience, my 2 sisters and myself. And so I'm pretty much passing on what Agatha Armstead gave to us. I should clarify that the Rowell Scholarship Fund is separate from the Foster Youth Connection, but either way, we'll appreciate any donation.
Okay. Am I mispronouncing your last name?
It's Rowell.
It's Rowell instead of Rowell. I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's okay.
When you're doing your roles in The Young and the Restless, and then on Diagnosis Murder, is it a big switch that you have to do a lot of work on to get between roles?
I don't have a problem with differentiating one from the other. Drusilla is a very feisty character, mischievous, whereas Amanda Bentley, who plays on Diagnosis Murder, is very straightforward and clear-cut about what it is that she does as a professional.
You're getting a lot of nice attention. The 4th most desirable woman in daytime TV, according to Soap Opera Digest. Yeah. You were honored by Howard University yesterday. You've won an Image Award from the NAACP. You've had to work long and hard, though, haven't you?
Yes, I have, and it's quite interesting when you receive these kinds of accolades. It sort of makes you step back and recognize, yes, I have done some wonderful things. I feel, though, that I've been achieving for a long time. And I think my biggest achievement that first initiated all of this in this business was winning a full scholarship with American Ballet Theater in New York. I think that was my biggest achievement as a child. So it's nice to be recognized. I say all that to say now.
I think a lot of folks would like to talk with you, so I won't use up all the time. We'll open it up to your phone calls. Our number here is 404-221-1855. Your calls when we come back.
Every day, folks from across the country come to Miracle Ear with questions about hearing loss and hearing aids. Now you can get straight answers to some of the most common questions in this free booklet, Straight Talk About Hearing Loss. And that's exactly what you'll get. Call now and discover for yourself the answers to questions like these.
I have trouble hearing on the phone. Does that mean I have nerve deafness?
What makes Miracle Ear so different from the other brands I see advertised?
My husband just won't admit his hearing is getting worse. What can I do to help?
How do I know if one of those little Miracle Ear hearing aids can help me?
Get the answers to these questions and many more by calling for your free booklet. Both the call and the information are free. By calling this number now, Miracle Ear will also send you a list of hearing centers near you. Dial 1-800-247-7600. Call now.
Imagine a processor that's not just about more power. It's about an entirely new kind of PC. One that responds instantly to whatever you ask of it. One that breathes new life, a new spark into all your software. That's the power of the Pentium processor. From Intel, the computer inside.
Tonight, in this town, spiritualism not only exists, it's the claim to fame. Larry Woods goes across America to a place where intuitive powers are the major industry, the Psychic City, on CNN's Prime News, 8 Eastern tonight.
Welcome back to CNN Morning News. We're talking with Victoria Rowell. She's an actress on The Young and the Restless and on Diagnosis Murder, and we're ready for your phone calls, and Georgia is our first one. Hello.
Hello. How you doing today, Victoria?
I'm okay.
I wanted to ask you, how long have you been into acting?
Well, all my life. No, I started about 8 years ago, and I migrated from Boston to New York, and through a lot of trial and error, I finally booked some commercials and progressed from there.
St. Croix is on the phone for you. Hello.
Hi, good morning, Victoria.
Good morning. You know, you Caribbean people are so into The Young and the Restless. I love this.
Yes, because it's so gorgeous. You got the most perfect skin.
Well, thank you.
Yes, I'd like to know, what was your first acting job? And
I'd say my first acting experience came out of working with Bill Cosby in Leonard Part 6, and then eventually on to The Cosby Show.
Virginia, you're on the air. Hello.
Yes, I'm just calling. I would like to know if Victoria has a special man in her life. She seems to be such a very nice woman, and I hope that she can find someone as nice.
I'll say that I do not have a man in my life at this time, but I have a daughter, and she keeps me very busy.
Oh, boy, I can't wait to see your mail from now on. North Carolina, hello.
Yes, this is Fayetteville, North Carolina, and the previous questioner asked my question, but do you have any children?
Yes, I do. I have a daughter, but aside from my natural daughter, I incorporate the foster children that I work with, certainly in Boston and Maine, who are in the scholarship program. I consider them my children as well.
Texas, you're on the air. Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Victoria,
Fine, thank you.
let me ask you a question. One of my favorite scenes that you did was the fight scene between you and your mother at Victoria's party. It just sent chills up my spine, and I was wondering, what did you actually have to do to prepare for that scene? Because, I mean, every one of your scenes I'm convinced with, but this one just blew me away.
That was an intense scene. William Bell, our senior executive producer, and our fantastic team of writers put that together. I have a lot to fall back on. I've never studied acting formally, and I rely a lot from my past. And once again, I have to say foster care paid off for me in that scene. I had to deal with a lot of rejection, and that scene was about rejection.
Nebraska, would you go ahead, please?
Hi, Victoria.
Hi.
Hi, I was just wondering, my mother works for our state's foster care review board, and I was just wondering how you felt about sometimes kids that get shuffled from their home life back to foster care, back to their home. You know, how did that affect you at all, or how do you feel about that?
I pretty much had one primary foster family. However, I will say that I am discouraged by some of the recent cases where a child has been in a fine home for over 2 years and then removed. I don't believe that a child should be removed after 2 years. I feel that the parent should be given a year to straighten up their act, and if thus they can't do that, then I think it's cruel to remove a child that's become quite acclimated to a fine home. I think we have to change the books, and I know that the Child Welfare League of America in Washington, D.C., with which I work from time to time in lobbying, I think should look into this matter.
Actress Victoria Rowell, thanks a bunch for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Certainly.
Leon?
She doesn't have a man. I gotta call my travel agent. All right, let's check with Dave Hinton now for a ski report. Dave.
Thanks, Leon. There is some very warm air in the west, so not the best skiing there, I guess, but it is going to turn colder in the Midwest and in the east as well. Let's take a look at your CNN ski report. More ski conditions coming up a little bit afternoon today. Donna, Leon?
Thank you, Dave. And a new novel from the acclaimed author of The Mosquito Coast and Chicago Loop, and it was inspired by the Bible.
That's right. It seems the prophets knew a little bit about healthy eating. Here's Sherry Dean with our Food and Health Report.
Theroux's novel, The Mosquito Coast, inspired a movie of the same title starring Harrison Ford. And while the author wouldn't mind if his newest novel, Milroy the Magician, is made into a movie, he hopes it inspires readers to eat healthier, perhaps return to the diet of biblical days.
The Bible is full of food. My book is full of food. My book is about a man who runs a chain of restaurants, and they're health food, but the health food is based on Bible food.
In order to bring the foods of the Bible, which are mentioned in Milroy the Magician, to life, Theroux hosted a luncheon at the Mark Hotel in New York City.
We were thinking of loaves and fishes.
We did a fish wrapped in potato and leek crust with parsley on a succotash of mixed bean.
Prophets knew a lot about fiber. People in the Bible, you know, they lived to 150 years, 200 years, 300 years. They live an awful long time. And maybe that's the reason.
And what kind of dessert was inspired by the Bible, a la Milroy?
The book of Nahum has a lot of figs. Figs, apricots,
dates.
Yeah. Dried fruit was a very important feature of the Middle Eastern diet. So we have those. And this is a purse of dried fruit.
Did you go back to the Bible and take notes on the food before writing this book?
Yes, I took notes on the food that was mentioned. I read about biblical history.
Those who attended the luncheon had varying opinions as to its biblical authenticity. Did you notice at all that the food at this meal resembled the foods of the Bible?
I'd love to think that it did. One would like to think of one's ancestors sitting in a tent there, eating something that might have been produced by Philippe Blue here, but I think it might be a leap of the imagination.
It was authentically biblical. It was delicious, yet cutting edge and up to date, at the same time authentic and old, and I was there.
The Bible I didn't read, I just read Paul's book.
Theroux believes readers of Milroy the Magician will think about their diet. And yes, he hopes they like the story, too. Sherry Dean, CNN, New York.
There you go. Great. Food for the soul, too.
Isn't that great? Yeah, that looks interesting.
Deal. Well, a wedding is usually a big event in somebody's life. Not big enough to make the news normally, but there's a ceremony in Midland, Texas, Saturday that caught our attention.
The bride, Delane Runkles, was radiant. Her husband-to-be, Bill Muscle Eunice, was ready after getting his tux on. But after the ceremony, the bride and groom rode to the reception aboard the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile.
Yeah, we couldn't make this one up. Now, it seems like while she was in college, the bride had a job driving the Wienermobile, and she says it was the most fun she ever had. And you know, guess what they served at the wedding reception?
I can't imagine.
Hot dogs. Pretty cheap reception there.
What an entrance. Doesn't resemble the white horses and the pumpkin, does it?
Not at all.
That's all right. If they're happy, that's what counts. Tomorrow on CNN Morning News, we will speak with Jim Cummings. He's the voice of the new Winnie the Pooh. And that's it for today's program. We're glad you could join us. I'm Donna Kelly at the CNN Center in Atlanta.
And I'm Leon Harris. A look at hip high tech coming up next on CNN's Living in the 90s. Stay tuned.